Did you know that there's a hidden conversation with the city council after their meeting with Bruce outside the church on day 5? User M56131 brought this to my attention in a comment on my video about the city council last year, and I'm really glad they did. Because although I was vaguely aware of this conversation, as my wife and I did a really thorough, completionist playthrough of Night in the Woods after Weird Autumn dropped, I had forgotten about it until I went back to get some footage for my video on Bruce. And it's not just a throwaway conversation either. It's fairly meaty as it pertains to the characterization of the members, and includes some light breadcrumbs to follow for our theories. So let's do what we do best here on this channel, and completely overanalyze a few minutes of dialogue. But before I go on, if you are a Night in the Woods fan, then please be sure to like, subscribe, and consider supporting me with a YouTube channel membership or over on Patreon. My dream is to make these videos full-time someday, and by doing any of those things, you'll be helping make that dream a reality. So what exactly do I mean when I call this a secret conversation? By secret, I simply mean it's very easy to miss. After you've watched Bruce meet with the city council on day 5, the council leaves. And of course, our natural inclination is to talk to him and not follow the council. He's a friendly guy, someone we know that we can talk to on a regular basis, and he was just in the extremely uncomfortable position of having government officials check out his living arrangements. Naturally, we feel bad for Bruce, and we want to see how he's holding up. The council, on the other hand, are stuffy politicians. We're not supposed to sympathize with them or think about what they're going to do next. That's what makes the placement of this conversation such a brilliant piece of narrative game design. In order to see it, you need to subdue your natural inclination to follow up with the character you probably like, and instead eavesdrop on the ones you don't. So, to get this conversation for yourself, what you need to do is watch the council as they check out Bruce's tent, and then when they're done, before you talk to Bruce, follow them until they reach the Church of the First Coalescence. I'm going to break it down in my usual style in a moment here, but just so we're on the same page, I'm going to play the conversation in its entirety so you can see it for yourself. Here you go. It's not exactly anything groundbreaking, but as I said earlier, it's not just a throwaway moment. There's some serious character development here for the council, and it has some minor impact on our theories about potential connections their members might have to the cult. So, to start, I think this conversation actually tells us quite a bit about Andrew, the bear member of the council. He wasn't being sarcastic when he said that Bruce's setup was impressive. He genuinely meant it. In previous videos, I've speculated that Andrew is likely a recent addition to the council based on the fact that he dresses more casually than the other members, and you really didn't see many politicians dressing down until 2012, when both Mitt Romney and Barack Obama made a point of wearing jeans to public appearances in an effort to seem more down-to-earth and relatable to the common man. For Andrew to be this impressed with Bruce's living arrangements suggests that he doesn't just dress like an everyday outdoorsman, but that he is an everyday outdoorsman as well. Later, he does say that he isn't sure that helping Bruce supports the interests of the community, which is foreshadowing of the fact that even if he is more down to earth than the other members, he still votes against starting a homeless shelter when it's all said and done. This conversation also confirms my priors about Gary. Unlike Andrew, he was actually being a dick to Bruce when they were checking out his setup. This is evidenced by the fact that he's surprised that the other members were indeed impressed by Bruce's handiwork. In the past, I've theorized that Gary is probably one of the more seasoned members of the council, based on his more formal style of dress and the reverential manner in which he talks about the history of Possum Springs. Building off of this, I don't think I've ever said it here, but I've long suspected that Gary, like many politicians, probably comes from a wealthy family. We see evidence of that here, as the hunter's camp his folks used to belong to contrasts heavily with the more rustic camping experiences shared by Andrew and Colleen. But he does say that no matter what, Bruce shouldn't be sleeping outside. So maybe he's not a complete dick. There's not as much to discuss with Colleen, but she does agree with Andrew about Bruce's setup, and brings up the point that he hasn't harmed anyone. Which is true, but also a presumptuous thing to say about a person who simply doesn't have a place to live. Aunt Molly gets an extra line here, and when coupled with what she says to Bruce before walking away from him, I think it's pretty safe to say that our resident mall cop is fed up with the whole situation, and probably knows exactly how this is going to turn out. As for Kathleen, she too mentions her own humble camping experiences, and then at the end suggests that they continue their conversation indoors. It's very tempting to read into this line and wonder if she's worried about someone, like perhaps I'd, listening in on their conversation. But it's important to remember that it is raining on day 5, so it's far more likely that she just wanted to get out of the cold. But that having been said, this conversation must have some bearing on my theories about the cult, right? So let's take off our literary analysis glasses and put on our tinfoil hats and start speculating. So to recap, if you'd like a full breakdown of my thoughts, you should check out my video on the city council and the cult from last year. But I've theorized that of the council members, Andrew and Kathleen probably know nothing about the cult, that Colleen either knows about or sympathizes with them, and that Gary is likely in their pocket, based on the fact that he's a seasoned politician and has the most bigoted views of all the members. In general, I think this conversation supports those conclusions. Gary does say that the decision is a toughie, and that Bruce shouldn't be sleeping outside, but as mentioned earlier, he was genuinely being an asshole when they were checking out his setup. I'd argue that this, plus his sigh when the other members show some openness to the idea of Bruce sticking around, is more important here. As for Colleen and Kathleen, again, there's really nothing new here for either of them, and though Andrew does say that he doesn't think finding a place for Bruce supports the community, that's not exactly a huge surprise, as the entire council appears to vote against Pastor K's plan to start up a homeless shelter. And though it's certainly something the cult would oppose as well, the way Andrew phrases his viewpoint here is a bit more toned down than the blatant bigotry they express at the end of the game. So overall, I think this conversation is worth throwing into the mix as we theory craft. For me personally, it seems to support my priors, but doesn't necessarily tell me anything groundbreaking either in terms of a potential connection between the city council and the cult. But above everything else, I think it's a reminder that there are always new things to discover about Night in the Woods, even for someone like me, who's made a side gig out of covering the game. No matter how many times you've played it, chances are there are more secrets to be found somewhere in Possum Springs. So I'd like to end with this question. What are some of your favorite secrets or hidden details from Night in the Woods? I've been kicking the tires on making a secrets video for some time now, and though I've got a few good ones, I could definitely use some more. So if you know of something along those lines, go ahead and tell me about it down in the comments. If it's good enough, I'll add it to the list, and I'll be sure to give you credit in both the video and the description box. Thanks for watching. As always, big thanks to Wolf.Godwin and Jordi Jaen Moreno for providing the music for these videos and the art for my channel. Huge shout out to all my silver and gold tier YouTube channel members and Patreon subscribers, including James Pruitt, Hori Matson, Gustavo Balabi, Lil Caesar, Reed, and Pathonian, who get early access to these videos thanks to donations of $5 to $10 a month. See you guys next time.